All right. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of the Mr. Islam Answers Back Live YouTube show. As we always do, we're going to give it a few moments for the crowd to come on in and tune in. And again, while we're doing that, let's go ahead and send out a few tweets, let everybody know that we are live on the air and you can join in as we speak. So let's go ahead and send out a couple of tweets. Let everybody know that we are live on the air. All right. So yeah, send out the way. Hey, Desi, how's it going? Assalamu alaikum, Morpheus, El Casas, assalamu alaikum. You know, bro, I'm sorry. As you see, I haven't been on and able to do the show in the last couple of few days that we're supposed to have the show. Again, just busy, busy. I definitely had to set some time aside to free up some time, but it's hard, brothers and sisters. It's difficult. At least for now, it is right now. It's difficult. It's difficult. So I have not had a chance to watch really any debates. I haven't had a chance to really sit down and watch any of the debates. And like I said, lately, again, as you see, I didn't do the show Friday. I didn't do the show on Wednesday. Busy, just trying to been working. So once I can free up some time, inshallah, we can go ahead and do that. In the meantime, as we always mention, if anyone would like to donate to the platform so that we can do, have the time to do more, give you more content, please make a donation. You can donate to the links in the description of the video. You have several options that you can use. You can donate through the website. The link is in the description. You can donate through directly through PayPal. You could also, if you like, you can help us through ordering our book, He Was Never God, How Scripture Shows That Jesus Was Only a Man and Not God. You could order our DVD, Taqiyya, The Lie They Made Against Islam, which is a detailed, thorough refutation of the claim that the haters make about Taqiyya, claiming that it is some type of ideology that allows Muslims to lie to non-Muslims to promote Islam. That is a complete lie, and that DVD that we have uh, thoroughly refutes that. You can order that. So those are some means that you could help us, so that we can bring you more content and have more time to do more content. That would help us greatly. So again, if anyone would like to donate, you can donate through those options. They are available in the description area. Also, your last means, if you do not have access to PayPal or those means that I'm showing in the description, you can make a description right here in the chat using the super chat. But as I always say, please keep in mind that if you donate through the super chat, that it takes 30 days to get the donation that you send. I do not receive the full donation. No YouTuber does. No YouTuber receives the full donation that is given, because a percentage, 20, I think 20 or 30% is taken out of that. So the YouTuber that you donate to does not get the full donation. So it's best that you use the descriptions in the, the links in the descriptions if you would like to make a donation. And again, donations can be made at any time. If you can't do it during the show, you can make it after the show. You can make it days after the show. These links are always available for you to donate at any time. Okay? So, yeah, we got some people in, so let's go ahead and get started. So, today, brothers and sisters, let me read some of the comments. We delve in. It's amazing how when Robert Spencer talks about four schools, he doesn't quote from the imams who founded these schools, but ulemas from these schools Muslims that came way after the time of them. When is Jesus coming back? Abdul Hamid. Okay, brother, welcome. Alhamdulillah. Wish the haters would at least pronounce Islam. Rather Islam. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, speaking very quick before we get into the topic, yeah, speaking on the thing with Robert Spencer, is that yeah, and not only him, but a lot of haters do that. They will, mention certain things from Islam, certain schools of thought, or whatever the case may be. But you're right, they don't quote those actual, the actual imams or whatever from those schools, which would refute their claims a lot of times, right? You know what I mean? Like if they were to quote the actual imams or whatever, they would the quotes they don't bring the same conclusion that Robert Spencer or the others bring. You see what I'm saying? They don't have the same conclusion. Like Robert Spencer don't have these. Their conclusion is to always bring Islam to an evil conclusion. But when you look at, like you said, the imams from these schools of thought or whatever, their conclusion is not the same. Like their conclusion doesn't conclude that, yeah, Islam is evil. Yeah, Islam says to kill everybody who's not a believer, or they're like, you know what I mean? Like that's not the conclusion of the four schools of thought, or from the imams or whatever from these schools of thought. But it always seems like the haters, their conclusion is always this negative and evil conclusion, which is not what the sources of Islam conclude. So that's very interesting. Very interesting. So yes, today's topic. Have you heard of the sister named Hoda Katebi? I believe is how you pronounce it. Have you heard of her? She's a Muslim sister. She's Iranian American sister. Her interview on a what was that program that it was? Her interview went viral. Let's see. She was on, what's this, WGN? She was interviewed on a I think it was a local TV show. May have been WGN, right? Yeah, WGN TV. And her interview went pretty viral because of her the statements that she made, which I agree with. She was right on point. She was right on point with her interview, and of course, well, we're going to get into all of that. We're going to get into all of that. We're going to get into all of that. So yeah, that's today's topic. And then during the interview, because of what she was saying, because she spoke the truth, she wasn't, that's the interesting thing about these people, right? Is that they're always about this thing about being, like they don't like political correctness, right? And when they use this, the haters who use this term, that they're tired of political correctness, because they want to, as they say, they want to call a spade a spade. And what that really means, if you pay attention to them, is that they want to really, what that really means, translation is, they want to be able to say bigoted stuff. Let's just put it point blank on the table. When they say they're tired of political correctness, that means that they want to be able to say bigoted stuff. So if they want to call Muslims terrorists, then that means they want to be able to call Muslim terrorists, right? Instead of saying, hey, there's some Muslims that are doing this. No, they want to be able to say, hey, Muslims are just a bunch of backwoods evil terrorists, right? Which sounds bigoted, and they don't want to get called out for that, right? If black people are protesting, they want to say, oh, these black people are a bunch of thugs. See, they don't want to be politically correct. They don't want to, according to them, again, this is according to them. According to them, they don't want to be politically correct. They don't want to have to say, well, hey, it's some black people doing this. No, they want to be able to just, I mean, hell, they could. I guarantee if they could, they wish they could say the word nigga, right? If they could, they wish they could say the word nigga, right? They wish they could, but they know they can't go that far, So basically, that's what then when they say they're tired of political correctness, that's what that means. That means that they are tired of being able, of holding their tongue. They want to call you the offensive terms. That's what that means when they're tired of political correctness. You see? But I always say, hey, fair game is fair game, right? If we're going to put political correctness to the side, when you want to speak to us, black people, Muslims, Latinos that way, then I say, okay, sure, let's go that route then. But understand that we're going to take that same method with you, that we're not going to be politically correct with you. So that means if you're a white bigot, we want to call you a white bigot just the same. Okay? So fair game is fair game. You're tired of political correctness? Good, me too. Me too. I always say me too. Good. I'm tired of it too. So if you're a white bigot, I'm going to call you a white bigot. If you're a racist devil, I'm going to call you a racist devil. And don't get mad, right? Because you said, hey, you're tired of political correctness. Good. I agree. I'm tired of it too. But I want you to understand that what's good for you is good for us too, right? So that means when you're tired of using political correctness, understand that we're also gonna not use political correctness also, right? But see, they don't like that when it goes that when they realize that, hey, what's fair for them is fair for us, now they don't like it. See, they don't want us to be politically incorrect. They just want them to be able to have that leeway. But I'm like, okay, sure, let's go that. Let's be politically incorrect. But understand, you're gonna get it back just the same. And so that brings us to the interview with the sister called Hoda Katebi, which she was politically incorrect. She wasn't kissing butt, right? In her interview, she didn't hold her tongue. When it was time to speak about bigotry, when it was time to speak about the evils and the stuff that's going on, whether it be about Israel or even about America, she spoke about it. She didn't hold her tongue, and they didn't like that. And so they want to, so we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it. We're going to show you the interview, and we're going to get into it. But that's what the topic is about. That's what the topic is about. Okay? So let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's go ahead and start the interview. What's the Ibn Kathir is not the Pope. Well, you know what, Abdul Hamid, yes. Before we start, yeah, you're right about that. Haters always go to things that are ambiguous. That's true. You're right, Yusef. You're right. Haters quote from selective scholars, not scholars who hold. Yes, true. Yeah, right. Exactly. And I noticed that when I I act in my debate. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. We're going to start the topic. Be patient. You're right. Just on that note, you're right. When I had my debate with Robert Spencer, I noticed that was one that I actually forced him to say that. Right. I actually had to force him. But by the arguments and the evidence I presented, I forced him in my debate with him for him to have to admit that, yeah, there are differences of opinion. See, but you notice when he speaks to the people, when he's throwing out his information, he doesn't bring that up. He doesn't acknowledge that there are differences of opinion. You see, so when I debated him, and I'm bringing other evidence that scholars are bringing, which actually was a stronger evidence during the debate. If you go ahead and watch that debate, it's on my YouTube channel. You'll see that he does acknowledge that point, which he doesn't do in other cases. But he had to acknowledge that, yeah, there are differences of opinion about this or that. But most of the time when he's speaking to his audience, he doesn't tell them that. See, he doesn't tell them that. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and what's this? What are you on white nationalists and Richard Spencer? Well, bro, you should already know what my position is already based on what I'm saying. But my view on them is, like I said, as I've been saying over the months and years that I've been on YouTube, whether doing a show or just doing my regular video, you'll notice that I'm always tying that into it. That I'm always bringing in that there's always this whole anti-Islamic thing is part of the bigger white nationalist, white racist movement. See what I'm saying? So that's what I always say. So my opinion of them is the same. They are in line with all, even though they don't really talk about Islam per se. But like I said, it's all tied together. The anti-Muslim, anti-Islamic, Islamophobia movement is a part of the bigger white racist, white nationalist movement, whether it be here in America or across the seas in the UK and Europe. It's all part of the, you know what I'm saying? It's all part of the bigger white racist picture worldwide. So they are right in there with these other people. You know what I mean? That's my view of them. And really in the same way, and dealing with them is the same way is how I deal with these anti-Islamists, right? You have to deal with the Jared Taylors and the Richard Spencers the same way, meaning get your information together. And people are doing that. People because their thing is mostly the white racist thing, right? Where they're not really dealing with religion so much, but they're dealing with the more direct racial component. So in order to deal with them, the same way I deal with the haters against Islam is the way they need to be dealt with, whereas you got to get your information, have your facts to refute their white supremacy claims. because, you know, look, their big thing is about the so-called intelligence. So if you're going to refute them, get your facts together about the intelligence, the so-called IQ test, and how they were created, how they're flawed, how it's a race. It was based upon, you know, well, I don't know. From what I read, that they originally were not started based upon any kind of racial idea, but later it became that. Later, somehow they use these things to make some kind of racial claims. But see, what's interesting too, though, is that before they started really talking about, you know, about black people, they used to say that Jews were less intelligent. They used to have this whole thing how certain groups of even Europeans were less intelligent. And then later, as they kept going with it, then later they just began to push it that it was blacks. You know, blacks, you know, other people of color are less intelligent, other than Asians, because obviously they couldn't say about Asians because Asians started acing these so-called intelligence tests. But, you know, the move was to push them. Oh, black people are less intelligent. Other people are less, people of color are less intelligent. You see what I'm saying? So in other words, what I'm saying is, in refuting them, you have to get your facts, get your information, and refute them that same way with your facts, and they can be refuted, but you just got to get your information together and refuting them. So that's pretty much my view on them. But okay, let's go ahead and I want to get into the show. The reliance of the traveler is not a sword. Yeah, you know what? I'm sorry. I know I keep going on your comments. But yeah, you're right. That's one thing that I've noticed that was over the years, a few years. I haven't heard it recently, but you know, over the years, a few years ago, that was the big thing where they would always keep a lot of haters with reference reliance of the traveler, right? They would reference reliance of the traveler almost as if it's the Quran, right? They would reference reliance of the traveler almost as if reliance of the traveler was the Quran. I'm like, yo, first of all, reliance of the traveler, reliance of the traveler, it's not the Quran. So stop quoting as if it holds some kind of heavy weight like the Quran does. I even show where some scholars even said to basically be wary of, you know, the book Reliance of the Traveler. Some said that it has a lot of, you know, questionable information in it. So, but you know, this is how they do. This is how they do. They like to bring these sources that they can use, and you know, I don't even know if they quoted it correctly, but whatever the case, they feel that they can quote these things even or misquote them in order to use as some kind of evidence. But let's go ahead and get into this interview. So I'm going to play the video of her interview, and we'll stop it along the way, and we'll address some of the things. Ready? Let's go ahead and get into that. Let's go ahead and get into that. All right. So here it is right here. Here's the interview. Let's start, and we'll talk about it little by little.
In Oklahoma.
Yes.
How'd that go?
Unfortunately, it was quite the experience. Definitely, I think when I first started wearing the hijab or headscarf in 6th grade, that was easily the worst year of my life because Oklahoma is a very homogeneously white and conservative state, and so.
Okay, so right there, she's already letting you know. Basically, when I saw this, I was like, okay, right there, the sister is letting us know that she's not going to be politically correct. For her to come straight out the gate and let it be known, yeah, I grew up in Oklahoma, and you know, growing up in Oklahoma wearing a hijab, and why was it a problem? Because Oklahoma is pretty much a white state, politically conservative white state. So right there, she's letting you know, I'm putting it on the table. I'm not pulling punches. I'm telling it like it is. So right there, kudos to the sister. She's already letting you know. I'm not going to be all nice and naive and politically correct. We're going to put it on the table. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. All right, let's continue.
So I was physically assaulted. People tried to pull off my hijab. It was basically like several years of trauma that I basically had to go through. And for me, that really led into where I kind of am today and made me look about fashion in different ways, and the ways that how we dress really impacts the way that people.
By the way, just in case people don't know who she is, this sister, she has, from what I understand, she's a fashion blogger. All right, she's a fashion blogger, and her fashion obviously deals with Muslim Islamic type fashion for the sisters, and so she blogs about that. So just to let you know who she is. And obviously she's become pretty famous and well known for her blogging, for her fashion statements, her blogging. And so this is why they're giving her this interview. And and then, like I said, her interview, because of her speaking, what made it go viral was when you'll see when they're interviewing her, and because she's speaking her mind on the political issues, one of the hosts of the show said that she did not sound American. All right, and we're going to get into that. But what was interesting too is that she was actually here. She wasn't there for a political reason, which is also what made it go viral, and what she made her own video speaking about that, is that she wasn't there to speak about politics. She thought that they were going to interview her about fashion, right? Because that's what she's there. She's a fashion blogger. She's not a political person. She's not a political activist or anything like that. She's a fashion blogger. And so she said, look, I thought, which is rightly so, that's what she was there for, and that's what her thing is. She's about fashion blogging, right? So she thought that they were going to interview her about fashion, about her, her views on the fashion and about the clothing or whatever, but they take the interview and they turn it into a political thing. But let's go ahead and continue watching. Here we go.
People engage with us. So if I wore a scarf around my neck, I probably wouldn't have gotten punched in the face.
But even today, in, let's say, more mainstream areas, you still have people who have a view of what you are and what you're about based on what you're wearing. How would you describe that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that I think anti-Muslim racism in this country is beyond sort of the individual bias against each other. It really has to do with we live in a system and a structure that actually profits from violence against Muslims. So when we look at where a lot of anti-Muslim propaganda is coming from, we can see actually weapons manufacturers are invested in basically perpetuating anti-Muslim bias, surveillance companies, and even like countries like Israel, which actually profit from dehumanization of Muslims, are all part of this larger system that creates this individual bias that affects people on the individual level.
Okay, right there, bam. Again, she's telling it like it is. You see, here she's talking about, again, the bigger picture, right? The bigger picture. That in this case, she's talking about how there's profit to be made off of the anti-Muslim bigotry, anti-Muslim bias. And she's right. Whether it comes to whether it's about promoting war, promoting weapons sales, surveillance, right? Countries, like she said, it's all, that propaganda is there, and it is a movement. We talked about this on some of our past shows, where there is the anti-Muslim movement is very profitable, right? We talked about how these people are making a lot of money through the anti-Muslim movement, whether it's in writing books, whether it's doing speaking engagements, you know what I mean? So-called documentaries. There's money to be made in the anti-Muslim movement from various branches of it, right? Various branches of it are allowing people to make a lot of money by being anti-Muslim. Even, of course, the so-called ex-Muslim, right? The so-called ex-Muslim who claims that they're an ex-Muslim, and now they start getting book deals, speaking engagements. There's money to be made in various forms, and as you can see, the sister, she's putting it on the table. She's willing to tell it like it is. All right, let's continue.
I'm curious, as a fashion blogger, how you think fashion influences all of this. So we were looking back at some pictures in Iran and how cosmopolitan some of the major cities were back before 1979, the revolution. I think we have some of those pictures here. Do you think you would like to see Iran go back to that before women were wearing hijabs, or would you like to be meeting somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, I think these photos being seen out of context is always really decontextualizing what actually was taking place in the country. So the people who dressed in the sort of Western dress that we're seeing now are actually a very minority group of people. They were upper class people. So if you wore a hijab, there's actually a period of mandatory unveiling where someone could actually pull the hijab off of you. So it was an incredibly violent time and very intolerant, but we kind of see these images of it as nostalgia of like, oh, we want to go back to this time, but we have to understand that this isn't actually how the majority of Iranians lived. So actually images of like miniskirts of Afghanistani women were shown to Trump earlier this month as an excuse for why the U.S. should keep troops on the ground, because, oh, we should like go back to the time where Muslim women or Afghan women were wearing miniskirts. But we don't understand that if we look at education levels, you know, like education of women in Iran right now far greatly exceeds what it was back during this time where women were wearing miniskirts. So if we want to talk about women's rights, let's talk about more like their social economic status rather than just what they're wearing.
Let's talk about...
You see her? You see her? Wow, this sister's on point. This sister is on point. They come in, she's just on point with her knowledge, you know what I mean? And the way she's presenting her case. So as you see here, right, you see they want to show they're showing the picture. They shows a couple of pictures from Iran in the past, and they try to mix in with some new pictures or whatever. But like the sister telling the truth about how, right, they want to show you these pictures when Iran, you know, had this Western influence, probably back, and like she was saying back, the interviewer back, I guess before a certain point in the 70s, when the Shah of Iran was in order. But like the sister mentioned, those people who were wearing Western clothes, that was the minority, and in many cases, yes, those were the elites, you know, the elites, the wealthy people who, you know, wanted that Western influence rather than their own culture. And right, they were making it hard for Muslim women to practice Islam. So they like to ignore that part. They like to act like, oh, when the Shah was in power, you know, it was wonderful, it was a great time. But no, the Shah was actually very intolerant and very harsh on the Muslims. In order to appease his Western puppets, right? He was hard. I think they even had a ban. I think there was even a point where they had the ban on the hijab, and like she was saying, right, where they would, and it was these minority of people trying to push their influence on the majority of the people who wanted to practice Islam, Muslim women who wanted to cover, but they were forcing this Western influence upon them, and then being harsh against them by being anti-Islamic in their own country. And see, this is what the Westerners never talk about. They never talk about that part. They always want to talk about how they want to go back to that, or, you know, when the Shah was in power, but never talk about the oppression that takes place. And this is what they always do. It's always okay when the Western puppet is in power and he's oppressing his own people, right? Even even when he's oppressing other Muslims, then that's okay. That's fine. That's great time. See, but then when the Muslims come back and push back against that, now it's a problem. Now it's the, you know, it's the Islamic State, it's the Sharia. But they don't, like she said, they don't put everything in context. That no, a lot of times that's because the Muslims had to push back against the suppression and oppression against them, and they had to push back against that. But they never like to give you the context of that. So she's right on point. So let's continue with the interview.
Nuclear weapons.
Okay.
Our viewers.
Now here you go. Now the dude, now the male host, he totally changes it up. He totally changes it up, right? Because it was just about what? It's supposed to be about the fashion blogging. The female interviewer was asking about the, you know, even though she still went to kind of political, but she was still trying to keep it in the context of the fashion of the woman in Iran, and, you know, would you like to see it go back to dressing whatever kind of way? So now the male host, he totally changes. He totally throws it into, now it's completely political. Now he's asking her about nuclear weapons in Iran. Now, like, what the hell does that got to do with fashion? This sister is a fashion blogger. She's not a political activist. So why are you asking her about nuclear weapons in Iran? What does that got to do with anything? And that's why she starts laughing. If you see her own videos about this interview afterwards, she says the reason why she started laughing, because she's like, you know what, like I'm saying, like, what does this have to do? Why are you asking me about nuclear weapons? I'm a fashion blogger. The hell are you asking me about nuclear weapons in Iran for? But she laughs because she's like, okay, so you want to take it there? You want to go there? You want to make this political? So she's like, okay, she's ready to address it. As you can see, she clearly has her stuff together, whether it's fashion or politics. She clearly can deal with it. But again, she was there as a fashion blogger. So she's laughing like, what are you, like, what are you asking me about nuclear weapons in Iran for? You know what I mean? But notice she's willing. She said she was willing to do. She's like, yo, whatever you want to do, I'm ready to roll. So even though it's not about where she's, even though the question has nothing to do with what she's about, she's willing to take on this question about nuclear weapons. So this is where the interview really starts to get good. So let's take a listen. Oh, I'm sorry. What's somebody saying here? I messaged you link, bro, just now. What's this? To attack Islam. Well, again, bro, that's, again, just all you got to do, everyone, is just keep that in mind, that the anti-Muslim movement is part of the, white racist, white supremacist movement. It's a branch off of it. But notice the motivation is the same. As we've talked about in previous shows, the motivation is the same. It's all about white racist, white supremacists who are in fear of losing white power, in fear of losing white domination. See? So whether it be by immigrants, whether it be Black Lives Matter, or whether it be by, or Islam, all of these things, the one common denominator is that white racists, again, I'm clear who I'm talking about. I'm talking about white racists. I'm not talking, listen, I'm not talking about all white people. I'm talking about white racists, white supremacists. To them, all of these things are a threat to white dominance, white power. So that's the issue with all of that. So yes, I would not be surprised that he would support such a movement, because that's the motive is still the same. It's anti-Islam, which to them, Islam is in line with Black Lives Matter, with Latino, Hispanic immigrants, or immigrants of color in general, which they view as a threat to white dominance, white power, and therefore they must, attack it or whatever. So no doubt about that, brother Abdul Hamid. Brother Shazad, welcome. Oh, really? Wow. Well, welcome back, brother. Welcome back. Good to have you. All right, so let's continue with the interview of the sister, and let's listen, and we'll talk some more. Here we go. Like I said, here's the part where the interview really gets good, because now the male host just took a left turn, and he's completely political, asking the sister about nuclear weapons, and she's like, that's why she starts laughing, because she's like, yo, what are you doing? What's that got to do with fashion? But let's take a listen.
Some of our viewers may say, we cannot trust Iran. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I don't think we can trust this country. I mean, what has this country done to the majority of the countries in the Middle East? I don't think Iran's having nuclear weapons. I'm a pacifist. I don't believe in violence. But also, when we look at the legacy of imperialism and colonization in the Middle East, and we see the legacy of this country and all of the violence that it has not only created, but also created the capacity for. A lot of these weapons in the Middle East are completely brought in by the United States.
A lot of Americans might take offense to that. You're an American. You don't sound like an American when you say it, you know what I mean?
That's because I've read.
Okay, now this is what the title of today's show is, about her interview, where now you just heard the female host say, oh, a lot of Americans might take offense to that. You don't sound American. Can I translate that for you? The translation of that is, you don't sound, a lot of white Americans may take offense to that, with a few exceptions. Of course, there's a couple of coons and Uncle Toms that might take offense to it, but what she really means is that a lot of white Americans may take offense to that. And you don't, and when she says you don't sound American, is you're not towing the line. You're not speaking the BS that, America is about freedom and justice for all. So you don't sound American, right? Now, I guarantee you, if I was on the show, she would probably say the same thing to me, right? Even though I'm, born in America, a black American, right? She would probably say the same thing to me, right? Oh, you don't sound American. Like, what you mean? And see, that's the fallacy of this, of this white, I'm gonna call it that, this white American patriotism. See, they don't want you to, they want you to toe the line. They want you to speak the fantasy, the BS nonsense that, oh yeah, America's about freedom and justice for all, and we're the freedom fighters, and we promote freedom and democracy all around the world. That's what they want. That's the BS line. And as the sister so rightfully said, when we look at America's legacy and history, it does not speak to that claim of fighting for freedom and justice and equality and all that around the world. That's just not the truth. See? So that's what she means. You don't sound American. You're not towing the line. You're not espousing or spewing the same BS that people falsely espouse. See? But rightfully so, what she's saying is indeed American. If you go back and look at a lot of, like, for example, Thomas Jefferson's writing, who was a hypocrite in himself. However, even though he was a hypocrite, he still spoke some truth. And some of the truths that he spoke of, which was that kind of thing. That, you know, being an American is not that you toe the line. Being an American is that you should be willing to criticize your government when your government is doing wrong. Right? You don't just sit there blindly going along with blind patriotism. No matter what your country does, you go along with it. No. If your country is doing wrong, you speak, you criticize your own country. That is what a true American does. Right? That's what a true patriot of any country does. You don't go along and kiss your country's ass no matter what your country does wrong. Right? If you lived in Nazi Germany and you were a German patriot and you saw Germany was going in the wrong direction by killing its own citizens who were Jewish or whatever, gypsies and whatever, right? A true patriot would say, no, this is wrong. This is not what we represent, you know, unless that's what the country represented, right? But if you see your country doing wrong, patriotism is to speak out. You don't go along with it no matter what it does. No, you stand up and say, hey, we're better than this. Our country is better. We shouldn't be doing this. You see? So what she's doing here is true American patriotism. This is the Hoda. Her saying what she's saying is true. Some of the things that America has done has been wrong, indeed. She's right about what its involvement in the Middle East. She's right about the weapons that they have sent over there, the groups that they've trained who turn out to become America's enemies all of a sudden, right? She's right about that. She's right about that. About the, you know, about the violence that they promote, about the dictators and the kings that they support, who are in contradiction to America's ideology, right? America's ideology is supposed to be anti-king. If you know about American history, America's history is anti-king, right? The colonialists fought against King George, right? They fought against the British crown. So America starts off by being anti-king. Instead, they want a government of the people, for the people, and by the people, rather than a kingdom. So how is it that America now supports kings in the Middle East? How are we supporting kings in the Middle East? How are we allies with kings? Not only kings, but kings who repress their own people. How are we in alliances with dictators and tyrants who oppress their own people, like America's relationship with Egypt under Mubarak? Right? Everybody, you know, who knows anything, you should know how Mubarak was in his governance. Right? And then when they finally had elections and elected, and of course they didn't like the Muslim Brotherhood, but they were democratically elected. Right? But no, now all of a sudden now they don't like the democratically elected government. So then Sisi takes over, and now America's favoring him. Right? See the hypocrisy? So now they favor Sisi, but Sisi wasn't democratically elected. Sisi is being a dictator and tyrannical, but that's okay. They support kings in Saudi Arabia and various other kings whose activities may contradict what America supposedly believes in. You see? But they support these dictators, even though these dictators suppress their own people, oppress their own people, right? Don't practice democracy, which America claims to be about, but they align themselves with such persons. And I've always found that, you know, very interesting how America preaches this talk, but then will align itself with persons whose governance contradicts what America supposedly believes in. And then, so what we find out is that America really doesn't believe in it as a government, doesn't really believe in that for other places, because they will support a king or a dictator who is oppressive and tyrannical to his own people. They'll support him as long as America can get what it wants. And same thing with other Western countries. They will support these persons as long as these people give them what they want. They don't care how brutal you are to your own people, right? They don't care how brutal these people are to their own people, how they oppress them, how they don't allow votes or whatever it is. But as long as that king or that dictator does what America does or what other Western countries does by suppressing their own people, they'll turn a blind eye. And so what the sister is saying is she's putting it right on the table. But again, the way the sister is speaking, that is a true American, right? That's what a true American is supposed to do. You're supposed to speak out. You don't just go along with it. You don't go along blindly with whatever your country does, especially when your country is in violation of what it claims to promote. See? Same thing with everything that was going on last year, for example, with Colin Kaepernick and kneeling during the football games, right? That's American too, right? You don't sit and salute flags and sing national anthems if your country is not upholding those values. So by saying, you know what, our country is not upholding these values, so I'm not going to stand during the national anthem. I'm going to kneel, because until our country represents what it preaches, the national anthem is basically a farce right now. That's true Americanism. You see, that's what it's supposed to be about. But they don't love that. They don't want to hear that. See, so that's why the lady was like, "Oh, you don't sound American. Americans may take offense to that." See, no, what she means is, again, many white Americans will take offense to that, especially her being an Iranian American, right? That's the worst, right? You're an Iranian American, and you're not towing the line, right? So Americans are gonna take offense to that. You don't sound American. See, they want her to be, and that's why they like these so-called ex-Muslims, right? That's why they like these so-called ex-Muslims. Because the ex-Muslims, especially ones that are from the Middle East, because those ones from the Middle East are like the Uncle Toms, right? They're the Middle Eastern version of the Uncle Tom, or a coon, or Middle Eastern coons, or sellouts, right? Because these people are willing to speak against their own people in order to garner favor with white Americans. And I've said this on past shows. We've talked about this on past shows before. This is why they like to promote the ex-Muslim, the fake ex-Muslim, because the ex-Muslims are saying what they want to say. So when you get, who are some of the names? Kamal Salim and these people. Remember back in the day, I don't know what happened. Remember Wafa Sultan? I don't know what happened. I haven't seen her in years. But Wafa Sultans and whatever various other fake ex-Muslims that are out there, they like these people. Ayan Hersey, they like them because these people, like I said, they're like the Uncle Toms. They're the coons. They're the sellouts who will say what white people want to say, what white racists want to say, but against their own people. So they're like, oh, see, well, look, she's an ex-Muslim, and she says you guys are terrorists. She says Islam is evil. She says the Middle East is garbage. She says the Middle East is an S-hole, right? So see, she says it too. So they love those people because they can promote their ideology through these persons without being directly blamed. So they can say, well, look, see, Ayan Hersey, she's African, and she said that the Muslims are a bunch of dirty savages. See? Can't blame us. See? Look at Wafa Sultan. She's from the Middle East, and she said that you guys are this and that, and you're evil and whatever. You see? So this is why they like these type of people, because they can, they're their lapdogs. They're the sellouts. They're the Uncle Tom. They're the coons who can espouse white racist talking points on behalf of white racists. And then the white racists don't have to take direct blame because they can say, well, look, she's one of you and she's saying the same thing. But those who are smart, they know that you don't pay any mind to the Uncle Toms. You don't pay any mind to the coons, to the sellouts, and they don't speak for us. So you don't fall for that, right? Only the naive, only the people who want to hear something that satisfies their bigotry believe these fake ex-Muslims. But when you get a sister like Hoda, who is not towing the line, she's Iranian American, but she's not towing the line. See, she's not selling out the Muslim people. She's going to speak truth to power. She's willing to tell it like it is, and she's not going to toe the line. She's not willing to say, hey, yeah, the Middle East is terrible, and yeah, Iran is garbage, and yeah, Islam is oppressive. No, she's like, nah, this country itself has problems. We can't trust this country. Look what it's done. And she's right. Look at the history. Look at America's history. She's right. See? And this is why I'm the same way. You know me already. I'm the same. This is why I speak the same way. Because we've been sold a bunch of BS. Right? We growing up in America, when we're taught American history, we've been sold a bunch of BS. When I was younger, like before I became a teenager, oh, I was very patriotic. I was very patriotic when I was younger. But why? I was being brainwashed. Right? I didn't know no better. Right? I'm believing everything. I'm believing what we're being taught about George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin. I'm believing what we're being taught, that America fights the good fight for justice and freedom and liberty for all. I believed all of that. So when I was younger, oh, I was very patriotic. Very patriotic. What changed? Well, what changed is when I started to learn the truth. Right? When I learned the truth about how America treated black people, how America treated Native American people. Right? And then as I got older and started learning, what America did around the world, that changed my whole outlook. Right? Because I realized I was brainwashed. Basically, school brainwashes you. Right? And I'm sure every country does this. So I'm not just putting America, but every country brainwashes you basically so you can have this kind of honor and patriotism towards your country. But I prefer the truth. See? Tell me the truth. Don't brainwash me into believing that my country has never done anything wrong. Because if I find out, you're going to have people like myself and Hoda and others, right? Who realize, hey, you're talking BS. You talking all this freedom and this thing, but you don't represent that. That's what creates the Malcolm X's. That's what creates the Black Panther Party, not the Black Panther the movie, but that's what creates the Black Panthers, meaning the group Black Panthers. That's what creates stuff like that, because you're selling us this image that's false. You talk a talk, but you don't practice what you preach. You see? So what Hoda is doing is, again, that's what to me a true American. And again, read some of the statements of some of the past American founding fathers. And that's what they were about. That this is what American government is supposed to be about criticizing your government. Right? That's true patriotism. You're not a true patriot if you sit by and your country is doing wrong and you turn the other eye and keep speaking, pulling, towing the line of the garbage, that's the BS that's being spoken. No, a true patriot says, wait a minute, we have these ideals and we're not living up to them. We're doing this, we're mistreating here, human rights violations. We're not standing up to what we believe in. That's the true American right there. But no, to them, a true American is when you keep your mouth shut, you toe the line, you overlook the evil that America has done and is doing. You overlook the injustices, the racism, and keep talking this talk that America is great and wonderful and freedom and justice and yeah, liberty for all. That's what they want you to do. They don't want you to acknowledge. That's why they didn't like Colin Kaepernick, as I said. That's why they didn't like the football players who kneeled during the national anthem. They don't like it. They don't like Black Lives Matter. They didn't like Malcolm X. Matter of fact, you know what? I even saw something interesting today from one of Martin Luther King's daughters, I believe. From the link, it appears that it was one of Martin Luther King's daughters. Because she was saying that when her dad was alive, they hated him. When he got killed, she said that polls show that Martin Luther King was one of the most hated people when he got killed. I guess maybe after Malcolm X, because Malcolm X got killed first. But when Martin Luther King died, when he died maybe a few years later, or there shortly after Malcolm X got killed, that when Martin Luther King died, polls show that Martin Luther King was the most hated person in America. Can you believe it? They love him now. So I think it was one of his daughters. I just saw this tweet today. Where she was speaking out against the hypocrisy. She was like, when my father got killed, he was hated. They love him now, right? They love him now. Martin Luther King has stamps, and we have Martin Luther King Day and all of it. They love him now. But back when he was alive, Martin Luther King was hated, brothers and sisters. They hated him. They said he was a commie, meaning a communist. They claimed that he was a troublemaker. The same stuff that you hear about black activists today is what they said about Martin Luther King. He was a troublemaker. He was a rioter. All these things they said about Martin Luther King. He was not loved like they love him today. And one of his daughters, I don't know if it was his daughter or one of his grandchildren. But it was a what they call those sites when they verified, because you know it has the little blue check on it. Yeah, so it had that. So it must have been, it was one of his children, his grandchildren, one of them. But she called it out right. She was like, you know, you guys love him today, but he was hated when he got killed. Polls, they took polls, and he was hated. They hated Martin Luther King. The polls showed that of course, he was hated by white America, right? But you know what's interesting? That they also talked to, you know, they called it like it is. There were some black people who didn't like him either, because again, the sellouts, right? The Uncle Toms, the Coons, right? Because they, you know, they had black people who would call Martin Luther King a troublemaker also. That he was a troublemaker, you know, he's stirring stuff up. You know what I mean? So you had black people like there's always coons. Unfortunately, history has shown us that there are always coons and sellouts and Uncle Toms who are willing to go against their own people to garner favor with the oppressor. It doesn't matter if you're black, doesn't matter if you're Latino, Middle Eastern, Arab, whatever. There's always people who unfortunately are willing to sell their own people out in order to garner favor with the oppressor. Unfortunately. So yes, there were black, but overall it was hatred in white America that hated Martin Luther King, even though now they love him. But back then, his daughter was saying, you know, they hated him back then. They hated him back in those days. And that's true. That is true. He was hated. You see, which of course why he's no longer here with us. Which is why he's no longer here with us. And so again, Martin Luther King represented a true American patriot, because he was criticizing, so same as Malcolm X. They were criticizing America for not standing up to what it did not practice what it preached. You see? So there we have. Let's see. We got a few comments. Assalamu alaikum, people. I was missing for a while. Sorry. No problem, Yusuf. The topic is we are reviewing the interview of Sister Hoda Katebi. We're going over her interview, which went viral because she's a fashion blogger. But she was interviewed supposed to be about her fashion blogging, but the interview gets political. The male interviewer asked her a political question about nuclear weapons in Iran, and it's like she's like, "Hey, I'm a fashion blogger. Why are you asking me about this subject when I'm a fashion blogger?" But nonetheless, she's willing to tackle the subject. So she takes on the subject of the nuclear weapons and speaks about how, you know, because the guy was like, how could we trust Iran? She was like, well, you know, some people feel like you can't trust America in the Middle East because of what it has done. And then the female host says, oh, well, hey, some Americans may take offense to that. You don't sound American. And I was just talking about how what that means is when she says you don't sound American is that, hey, you're not towing the line. You're not speaking the BS that America is about freedom and justice. So you don't sound American because you're telling, you know, you're speaking out. You're speaking the truth. You're criticizing America's hypocrisy. So you don't sound American, right? You're not towing the line. You're not, you know, you're not saying that America's great and it's free and we promote freedom and justice. You're not doing that. So you don't sound American. But as I'm saying is that is very so American to criticize your own government. So as I said, go back and read some of the statements of Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin, how they speak about how it's your right to speak against government, which what is America was supposed to be about, right? It was anti the king of Britain, right? America got its independence from the kingdom of Britain. And that was one of the issues, right? That you couldn't speak against the king. You couldn't speak against government. And so they wanted a government where you had what? Freedom of speech. Where if your country needs to be criticized, you can criticize it. But see, the thing is that these people don't like the criticism. As I said, that's why they don't like Colin Kaepernick. That's why they did not like the Black Panthers. They did not like Malcolm X. They didn't like Martin Luther King. Even though Martin Luther King spoke about nonviolent resistance and turning the other cheek and peaceful protests and all that, they still did not like him. See? They still didn't like him regardless of that. Why? Because to them, they see you speaking out against the evils that America does as a challenge to white dominance. That's really what it comes down to. See? That's really what it comes down to. See what I'm saying? The reason why they really don't like this is because they feel that you're challenging white domination. American patriotism is really attached to or at least their form, their version of American patriotism is attached to white supremacy and white racism. In the sense that because when you speak about the evils that they do, which many times is motivated by their racism, they get upset. So that's why they don't like you to kneel during the national anthem, because it's like it's an affront to white supremacy. See, so they don't like it. They don't see that as being American, right? They don't see that as being American because it's an affront to white dominance, white power, that you're speaking out and willing to challenge the evil and injustices that they perpetrate upon you based upon racism. So that's what we're discussing. All right, so let's continue on with the interview of Hoda Katebi.
You know, and I think that it's really important that we look beyond sort of these really simple narratives that we're told, whether it's about Muslim women, with legacy of this country, and knowing that this country literally was built on the backs of black slaves and after the genocide of indigenous people. And I think there's a lot that we can be proud about, but I think that we shouldn't let that sort of blindside us for the realities of the situation.
Well, you can check out Hoda's blog at Juju.
Exactly. Now you see what she said there, right? You see what she said there. She's right. She just summarized exactly what I was saying, is that, you know, we can't be blinded by, you know, we can't be blindsided or one-sided and ignore those things about America's history. Right? We can't ignore that. You can't sit there and be talking about great country and freedom and justice and democracy and whatever, you know, when America has a history of violating those principles. She mentioned America's treatment of black slaves, the genocide of the Native American, the indigenous people. She's right about that. But many people will speak about America as if America did no wrong. Right? Many people will speak about America as if America did no wrong, as if those things never happened. So if you're going to speak about it, right, you got to acknowledge that, hey, it has a dirty history. It has a dirty history, and you can't ignore that. You can't act like those things didn't happen. Sure, there's some things to be proud of, like she said, but you got to include that other narrative that you don't want to see. And as she said, we can't allow ourselves to be influenced by some of these false, like she said, these false narratives, which is correct. And that's the problem with these people, is that they like to promote this one-sided false narrative, and they act like they did nothing wrong, like they've never done nothing wrong, like they're angels. And that's the farthest thing from the truth. All right. And then you notice how after she said that, the female host like, okay, well, you could check. They cut it. They like, okay, that's enough. Cut her right off. Well, you could check out her blog. Like, yeah, they don't want to hear no more of that. They don't want to hear no more of that truth. All right. Let's continue on.
Juazad.com, and you have a fashion show coming up. Tell us about that. Or you're going to be, you're getting
collection.
A co-op
Yes.
together.
So I'm working on a sewing refugee co-op of women here in Chicago. So basically trying to support Muslim women and immigrants and refugees here who already have sewing skills, but may not speak English or may need childcare while they're on the job. So making sort of work accessible to them.
And they can find out about that on your blog.
Yes, they can.
All right. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for
Paul.
having me.
Hi, guys. Today, look for temperatures that'll climb to about 44 degrees.
All right. So there we have it. So, you know, like, as we saw, it really didn't have to go. They could have just kept it about the fashion blog. Like the way it ended right there, they could have just kept it like that. They could have skipped over the political stuff about the nuclear weapons or whatever, right? And just keep it, right? And just keep it about the fashion thing. You know what I'm saying? But good interview. I said, where did you get this? What are you talking about? Wa alaikum salam, Dabat, and Muhammad Zakaria, welcome. I bought a brand new colored crayon. Only average. Okay. Well, there you have it, brothers and sisters. So we wanted to, you know, just talk about the sister's interview, since it had something to do with Islam in that sense. But yeah, like I said, look her up. You can find a lot of information about her, especially on Twitter. They have a hashtag with her based upon her interview and how it went viral. So, but yeah, I like the sister. She's on point. I like the way she spoke. I like the way she's willing to tell it like it is. You know what I mean? I like the way she's willing to tell it like it is. So that was cool. That was cool. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap it up. Any comments or questions before we close it up? Let's see. Mahbub Noor says, Shadid 551. Word is awliya. Awliya could also mean protector, ally, not just friend. Yes, brother. I've spoken about that. I've spoken about that in some videos where we address that point about the word awliya. That right, it means protector or guardian more so than friend, right? Because the word awliya comes from the root word wali, and a wali is your guardian. A wali is not your friend, right? A wali is your guardian, your protector, somebody who manages. Even when you look up the definition, a wali is somebody who manages your affairs, right? They manage your affairs. They're your guardian. They're your protector. You know, and really, like I said, more so it means someone who manages your affairs for you. So this is more. This is not a friend. This is not the definition. I mean, a friend could do those things, but that's clearly not the definition of somebody who's just your friend. A wali is your guardian, one who manages your affairs. So that's what those verses are talking about. When it says, don't take them as your wali, it really, they should have translated, and you know, some translations have it correctly, but translated as friend is a poor translation. It's more rightly so translated, don't take them as your guardians, your protectors, or your manager of affairs. That's what it really should be, right? That's really what it should be. All right. So yes. Well, all right, brothers and sisters, we good. We had another good show, alhamdulillah, an hour show. We're going to wrap it up. So as I always do before I wrap it up, please remember that we'll try to do, like I said, I want to try to do the shows on either Saturday or Sundays, Monday during the week, Wednesdays during the week, and then Friday at the end of the week, if possible. This week, I apologize that I wasn't able to keep the schedule, but you know, again, you know, sometimes I gotta put that work in, and if I gotta do that, that's what, you know, I'm unable to do the show. And this brings me to what I always do about your donations. This is why your donations help, so that I can bring you more content, the content that you enjoy. So please donate to our platform. You can make donations through the links in the description of the video, donating through our website. You can donate directly through PayPal. If you would like to support us by other means, you can purchase our book, available on Amazon Kindle in ebook form or paperback. The title of the book that I wrote is He Was Never God, How Scripture Shows Jesus Was Fully a Man and Not God. Again, you can purchase that on Amazon Kindle. That can help us as well. You can purchase our DVB. I call it DVB, meaning digital video book. It is like an audio book that you can watch, basically, right? It's a video book that you can watch. So you can watch it. It's a DVD, but you can watch it. I'm speaking on it. You can see the words on the screen, and you know, I give some information and quotes from scholars, quotes from the Quran, various other information. But it's a very good, thorough refutation of the claims about Taqiyya, right? It's called Taqiyya, the lie they made against Islam. Again, it is a thorough refutation. I recommend it for any Muslim or any non-Muslim too. If there's any, but especially for Muslims, because it can help you to refute the claims that are thrown at us about this Taqiyya, claiming that it is some type of sneaky, underhanded, evilly deceptive teaching that we have as Muslims to lie and deceive non-Muslims in order for us to promote Islam, and that is a complete lie. This DVB will help you refute that claim thoroughly. So I recommend it to Muslims, especially. However, anybody can get it. Non-Muslims, if you're interested, if you are sincerely seeking the truth and you want to know the facts about Taqiyya, you've heard about it, you want to know, hey, are Muslims allowed to lie, to deceive, and trick us and whatever, and you want to know the truth, get this DVB. It will give you the thorough information to correctly inform you about it. All right. So again, it's definitely good for Muslims because it will give you the information to refute the claims. However, non-Muslims, it can help you if you're sincerely looking to learn the truth about what Taqiyya actually and really is. So by all these means, you can help support my platform which will allow me to bring you more content, right? More content that is in your service to the brothers and sisters, right? It's in your service. I do this, fi sabilillah, to help you. But again, the funding helps us to be able to, bring you more content, frees up time, allows us, inshallah, to grow the platform as well. So please, your donations are greatly needed and greatly appreciated. All right, and greatly appreciated. Let's see, what's this? Yes, you're right about that. I talk about that also, Mahbub, about Ashidda. Yeah, I talk about that. Matter of fact, that's where my name comes from, right? Shadid. That's where my name is. The root is in there. It's the same root from Shadid. Right. It doesn't mean somebody who's ruthless or brutal. It means somebody who's firm, strong, forceful. That's what it means. Not ruthless. But again, see, these type of translations using such words, they convey a certain idea. You see, that's why it's important that when Muslims translate, we translate it with the best. That's why you got to have a good grasp of the English language in addition to the Arabic, so that way you can translate it correctly and properly without conveying the wrong idea, because ruthless does not convey the right idea. Okay. Do you know there is a Muslim movie on Mary and Jesus? No, I did not know that. I did not know that there's a Muslim movie. Where is it? Where is it? Is it here in the West, or is it a Middle Eastern movie? Because I haven't heard about that at all. Let's see. Shabir Ali claims that 434 is not about husbands beating their wives, but the Muslims community giving a woman punishment for sex. Really? That's what he says 434 is about? I haven't heard that one before. The only other counter argument that I heard about 434 was that it's about the two or the husband going away from his wife, because one of the meanings of daraba also means to like go out, strike out on a journey, right? One of the meanings of daraba is to strike out on a journey, or the two went away from each other. Like if you look in William Lane's lexicon of the Arabic, it talks about some of the meanings of daraba, and it means a lot of the many of the meanings of it means to go apart, right? Like something goes apart from something, or it talks about how somebody lost his wealth, went away from him. So some people are putting the idea, for which I'm one of them, that 434, when it gets to that part about daraba, where many translators translated as admonish them or strike them or hit them, that it could be or should be taken as to go away from, right? To separate from or go away from, rather than hitting or striking, and so that's the argument that I've heard, but I have not heard that one, that it's about the Muslim community. So I'm gonna have to see if I have to check out Shabir Ali's video on it and see why does he, what does he present, what is he, what makes him come to that conclusion, because I know the brother is thorough in his information and research. So I would definitely like to see what argument or what information he has to support that position, that it's about that. But like I said, the only other argument that I've seen was that it's saying that some say that it means to separate from or go away from, rather than hitting or striking. So I like to see that. Picked strong. Yes. So right, yeah. Most of them are translated correctly as powerful or strong or firm, something to that sort. So the movie is a Middle East one on Mary and another one on Jesus. Oh, they are separate. Okay, so they're two separate movies, but they're made Middle Eastern. Oh, well, that's interesting. Interesting. It is divided in episodes. Okay. 434 is. Oh, so that's why he says that, so because of the next verse, he takes it that it's the community, is addressing the community. Well, okay, well, he may be valid. Like I said, I like to see his video. What exactly is wrong with the man? Well, brother, I mean, what's wrong with that is because, well, we see, I mean, here, I mean, really around the world, but here in America, there's this thing of domestic violence, right? Domestic violence of men beating up their wives. So that's why people are apprehensive to that translation, because people have obviously they've beating up your wife is not a good thing. I don't think beating up your wife is a good thing. So that's the problem with it, Mahbub, because domestic violence is such a big problem here in America, and I'm sure it's in other countries, but here in America for sure, of husbands beating up their wives, black eyes, broken limbs, bruises, and all that. And of course it's wrong for a man to be beating up on a woman. So that's what's wrong with it, bro. That and so obviously most people don't want to see a religion that's teaching them that you're supposed to beat your wife because of the what we see happening with domestic violence. So that's the problem with it, right? That's the problem with it. You see, so you know, so that's the issue with it right there, my boo. That's what's wrong with it. You know what I mean? So, what do you think on Christian Prince? I haven't seen Christian Prince in quite some time, but from the times of me dealing with him in years past, yeah, he's a fool. He, and he's one of those people that we spoke about earlier. He's one of those Middle Eastern sellouts that they like to promote because he's telling them what they want to hear. He's from the Middle East. He's an Arab or whatever, and he's a sellout. He's speaking against his own people, and they like that, right? They like that they can have a sellout person who's willing to speak against his own people, who can denigrate his own people, put his own people down, and he can garner favor with white bigots in America or in the UK or in Europe or whatever. So yeah, they like that. So he's one of those type of people. But I haven't seen him in quite some time. I haven't seen him probably I would say at least in a few years. I haven't seen anything from Christian. I don't know if he's still around or not. But I haven't seen anything from him in a while. Yeah, years ago I've had a couple of run-ins with him on Pal Talk. I even debated him on Pal Talk, and that's why I saw that this guy, he's a fool. He doesn't know how to debate. He doesn't know how to stick to the topic. He's all over the place. When I debated him, he's like all over the place. He doesn't know how to stick to the subject. He just yeah. But when he's by himself, the haters love him because nobody's challenging him. He can say whatever he wants, and nobody's there to challenge his lies and his misinformation. So yeah. Well, Mabu, that's different. That's different. If a woman, because there's videos of that. If a woman is assaulting a man, the man has the right to fight back, right? The man has the right to fight back. If a woman is fighting you and she's trying to fight you, the man has the right to fight back. So there's been talk about that in recent years also, because a lot of videos have gone viral on YouTube or Facebook or whatever of women punching a man in the face and then the man fights back. So people are like, wow, should he have done that? A lot of people are saying, yeah, that if you punch a man, the man has the right to fight back. Then other people are like, well, she's a woman, So I mean, there's two sides of it, right? There's two sides of it. You know what I'm saying? But no doubt that there are a lot of people who agree that, hey, if a woman punches you and she's trying to attack you and fight you, you do have the right to defend yourself, right? It's just we're talking about but we're talking about just abuse, where the woman is not doing that, and men hitting a woman who's not trying to fight you. That's abuse, bro. You know what I'm saying? That's abuse, and of course, we say that Islam does not promote that, right? Islam does not promote that. So this is why the translation of what to go away from is more better. And then again, there was even there's a conflict about it, but there was a hadith that I saw where the Prophet said actually point blank, don't hit your wives. He said don't hit them. So that's more in line with that would be more in line, because obviously the Quran can't contradict, right? Or the hadith is not supposed to contradict the Quran. So if that narration is supposed to be true, then it would be more in line with that statement that, okay, it means to go away from it. If he said don't hit them, right? Don't hit them, then that would seem to go more in line, So. What's this? Have you seen Akil's video on Christian Prince? No, he did a video on him. I have to check that out too, man. I'm so behind, brothers. I'm telling you, I'm so behind. You know that I try to, even this little bit of time that I have here to do this show with you guys. Other than that, I'm trying to, I'm self-employed, so like I've said before, but I got to put some time to watch these things that you guys are letting me know about. I think any Muslim who debates David Wood is a fool. It's a waste of time. Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe now maybe so, but in the earlier days it was different. Now I think he's debated plenty of Muslims now, and we pretty much can see, many of the arguments have already been addressed. So maybe now you might be right. But in the earlier days, I would disagree, because, as I said, a lot of these people need to be exposed, right? But I think he's been exposed enough already. So for him, yeah, you might be right, where anybody taking any future debates, it may be, it may be a waste of time. But in the earlier days, like when I first was debating him and others, then it was different because it was new. He was just out there, and like I said, same thing I say with a lot of these haters, they need to be addressed, because if you do not address them, their lies continue to go unchallenged, and the people that follow them and listen to them think that they must be telling the truth, because they say, oh, look, no Muslim wants to debate him. No Muslim wants to challenge her, so he must be telling the truth, right? He must be telling the truth. Look, the Muslims are scared. That's what they talk about. Remember, if you go back to some of my earlier shows, we talked about that as well, about how you have to challenge these people. And remember in my earlier shows, how I talked about how your presentation matters. You could have the information, but if your presentation is weak and you look weak, your information is not going to make the point that you want it to make, because the people watching are going to think that you're weak. They're going to like, wow, David Wood or Robert Spencer, whoever, right? They walked all over you, right? They walked all over you, and you weren't able to do anything. So that's what you don't want. That's what you don't want. See what I'm saying? You don't want them walking all over you and be like, wow, they walked all over you. You see? So that's the thing. That's the thing there. All right? That's the thing there. What's this? David Wood and Robert Spencer for some reason repeat. Yeah, they do that. So like I said, so in that case, now that everything's been said and done, that may be the case that, that it may be waste, because they've been already refuted on those subjects. So on that, I might agree with you. Yeah, I know about that, my boo. Yeah, I'm aware of that, because again, the society looks at women as fragile and obviously not as strong as a man. But I said there are people in the society that agree that if the woman is fighting you and she's smacking you and punching you or whatever, that you can fight back. Man, if a woman is doing that to a man, he has the right to fight back. But yeah, on overall though, most people will look at the woman as weaker than a man. So right, they would say, oh wow, that's not good to be abusing a woman or whatever. So, that's the thing there. But okay, brothers and sisters, let's go ahead and close it out. It was a good show. Once again, don't forget, if you want to make a donation, you can use the links in the description to make a donation through the website, through my PayPal. You can purchase the book or the DVB. Any of those means will definitely help me. And once again, I appreciate your donations. Like I said, I can't see them until I get off the show. So if you have donated during the show, may Allah reward you. I appreciate it greatly. And you guys have a good night. Well, bro, I already refuted him on that. Again, it doesn't matter what he thinks. I gave the evidence. I presented the evidence so thoroughly in 929 that it's about self-defense. So we don't care that he doesn't accept it. The point is the evidence shows that that's what it is. You see what I'm saying, my boo? So don't worry about that. That's why I tell you, if you have the evidence, then it doesn't matter what they don't accept. I don't care what they don't accept. I'm still showing the evidence that this is what it is. If you don't accept it, that's their problem. The facts show that it was about self-defense. So of course, think about it. Of course he's not going to accept that, right? Of course he's not going to accept that, because he wants to what? Make Islam look evil. So you got to be able to separate the facts from whatever they don't like. Sure, of course he doesn't like it because it refutes his position. He wants Islam to be violent and evil, so of course he doesn't accept it. But does the evidence show? Yes, I showed the evidence from every angle, from the context of the Quran as a whole, from the occasion of the revelation, from the commentaries. All of the commentaries and the evidence from the Quran itself show that 929 is self-defense. So to hell with what David Wood doesn't accept. You get me? And that's the attitude you got to have. Right? That's the attitude you got to have. If I have the evidence, then to hell with what you don't like and don't accept. See what I'm saying? That's the attitude. Stand firm on your evidence, and hey, to hell with what you don't like. Okay? All right, well, let me get going, brothers. This is, of course, man, that was so long ago. Come on, he died. How long ago? He died like sometime last year, right? So we know. But let me get ready to go, brothers and sisters. I gotta head out. But again, appreciate you. Inshallah, let's try to see if we can have the next show on Wednesday. Hopefully, if things go right and I have some freed up time. All right? So, assalamu alaikum. Again, if anybody donates during the show or have donated, I appreciate it. May Allah reward you, and I'll check it after I get off. Have a good night or good morning wherever you are. Assalamu alaikum.